In today's digital art world, a noticeable pattern has emerged where many artists tend to create characters that look almost perfectly beautiful, polished, and idealized. While these artworks are technically impressive and visually appealing, they often begin to feel repetitive. The faces usually follow a similar structure: sharp jawlines, symmetrical features, flawless skin, and conventionally attractive proportions. Even when artists try to differentiate their characters, the variation often comes down to surface-level changes like hairstyle, eye color, or pose, rather than deeper diversity in facial structure, age, or identity. As a result, many characters, despite being drawn by different artists, start to look like variations of the same template. One of the biggest reasons behind this trend is the strong influence of social media and modern content consumption habits. Platforms are designed to reward what captures attention instantly, and over time, a very specific type of perfect character design has proven to perform well. These characters are easy to recognize, easy to like, and easy to share. Because of this, artists, especially those trying to grow, often feel a silent pressure to follow the same formula. Even when an artist wants to experiment, there is always a small fear in the back of their mind. What if this doesn't perform well? This fear slowly builds a comfort zone, and that comfort zone becomes a limitation. Another important factor is the influence of popular art styles. When a particular style becomes trendy, thousands of artists begin learning and replicating it. Over time, this creates a visual standard that feels correct or professional. Artists who are still developing their skills may rely heavily on these trends because they provide a clear path to improvement. However, the downside is that originality can get lost in the process. Instead of exploring real human diversity, many artists end up refining a single type of face again and again, making it more polished but not more unique. Even experienced and well-known artists are not completely free from this pattern. It is not always about lack of skill or creativity, but often about expectations. Once an artist builds an audience around a certain style, changing it can feel risky. Followers may expect a certain look, and stepping away from it might lead to less engagement. In some cases, artists may even avoid experimenting simply because they are known for doing one thing exceptionally well. This creates a situation where even those who have the ability to explore new ideas choose not to, simply to maintain consistency and stability. However, this growing uniformity can limit the true purpose of art. Art is not just about creating something visually pleasing. It is about expression, storytelling, and exploration. When every character begins to look similar, art loses a part of its depth. Real people are not perfect, and they do not all look the same. They have different face shapes, different skin tones, different ages, different features, and different imperfections. These differences are what make people interesting, and the same applies to characters in art. Including variation in artwork brings a sense of life and authenticity that perfect characters often lack. A face with asymmetry, a unique nose shape, visible wrinkles, or an uncommon skin tone can tell a story even before the character speaks. Older faces can show experience, younger faces can show innocence, and unconventional features can create strong personality. When artists explore these aspects, their work becomes more than just visually attractive. It becomes meaningful and memorable. There are artists who do step outside this norm and experiment with different types of characters, and their work often stands out immediately. It feels fresh, unexpected, and real. However, such experimentation is still not as common as it could be. Many artists hesitate because drawing diverse features requires deeper observation and understanding. It is easier to repeat what already works than to study new face structures, new proportions, and new references. But this challenge is exactly what helps an artist grow. Personally, I find much more satisfaction in both seeing and creating characters that break away from this perfect face trend. Drawing different face shapes, exploring a wide range of skin tones, and representing people from different age groups makes the process more exciting. It feels less like repeating a formula and more like discovering something new each time. It also allows the artist to develop a stronger understanding of real-world anatomy and diversity, which ultimately improves their overall skill. Encouraging more variation in art is not about criticizing artists who prefer drawing idealized characters. Everyone has their own style and preferences, and that should always be respected. However, pushing for more diversity can open new creative possibilities. When artists allow themselves to experiment without fear, they often discover styles and ideas they never expected. This not only helps them stand out, but also contributes to a richer and more inclusive art community. In the long run, moving beyond the idea of perfection may be what truly defines great art. Audiences may initially be drawn to polished and beautiful characters, but they remember the ones that feel unique and real. A character does not need to be perfect to be impactful. In fact, it is often the imperfections, the differences, and the individuality that make a piece unforgettable. If more artists begin to embrace this mindset, the art world can shift from repetition to true creativity, where every character tells a different story and every face feels like its own identity.